All right, it is 11:06, and I move that we are opening the meeting. In attendance, Greg Guimond, Nancy Pareca, Amy March, Michael Seal, Andrew Stewart, Tim Williams, and our newest committee member, Michael Waddell. So I thought we'd just start with going around the room and kind of making introductions on what everybody does and, you know, for their roles on the committee and where they live and kind of go through that. So I'll start. I'm Tim Williams. I am the chair of the CRS PPI committee. Marshfield resident. I live on Mayflower Lane. I also a floodplain resident in the special flood hazard area. My full-time role is I'm an insurance agent working for a local insurance agency in Hanover. One of the PPI requirements is that you have an insurance agent on the committee. And I'm also an associate in National Flood Insurance, which is another thing that we have on our committee. And we have another board member here. Welcome, Mary.
Hi.
Come on in
Sorry,
and take a
I'm late.
seat. That's okay.
That's okay.
Should I start?
Yeah, that's fine. Right here with a microphone is great. We're just going around and doing introductions on the committee and kind of explaining the roles. So,
Oh, good.
And we
As I
literally
said-
just started.
Oh, okay.
I'm the chair. I live in Mayflower Lane. I'm in the special flood hazard area down in Fieldston. My background is in insurance, property and casualty insurance, and specialty kind of in flood insurance. I have an associate in National Flood Insurance. And we kind of started this committee back in, I believe, 2015-ish, around there. And it's part of what they call the community rating system. And what that is FEMA, if we participate within FEMA and do document and do certain guidelines, provides residents in the town of Marshfield that are, have a national flood insurance policy, a discount for us doing certain requirements. Currently, when we go through this, you'll see in Marshfield is a Class 7. That provides a 15% discount for those that own a flood policy through the National Flood Insurance Program. It is not for private, but it is for anybody who has those programs.
The national meaning, like most people in Brantford.
Most people do.
National.
There are people that have private policies through like Lloyd's of London or, Swiss Re or one of these other carriers, but predominantly there are a lot of people that can't get that and have, national flood policies. So it's a good thing that we're doing that. And our goal really is to, document and try and prevent, disasters and flood issues. And we do that through some of the activities that we do, informing the public and also, making sure we get some of our hazards due. So a lot of what we do too is also, you'll see part of the hazard mitigation plan through the town of Marshfield as well. So we kind of work hand in hand with some of those things. And that's why you'll see the different committee members on here. So I'm going to start to my left. This is Amy March.
I am also a Marshfield resident. I live on Stony Brook Road, and I'm a local real estate agent. And I really act as the liaison between myself and local agents to keep them updated on different situations with flood and share the information so that they can also share it with the public.
I'm Nancy Pareca. I'm the zoning administrator. I'm also the CRS coordinator. I live on Ocean Street, also in the flood zone. And that's it.
Greg Guimond, I'm the town planner. I live in Green Harbor, but I am on Ice House Lane, but I am not a floodplain resident.
I'm Mike Seeley, the conservation, sorry, I almost said commissioner, the conservation administrator. And I'm not a resident, so I'm the liaison to the commission, but I cannot vote. I'm a non-voting member of the committee.
I'm Andrew Stewart. I'm the building commissioner and floodplain administrator for the town of Marshfield. I live in Marshfield Hills. So I'm not a floodplain resident, but I've been, before being, on the regulatory side, I was a custom home builder in this area for 20 years and have done a lot of volunteering post-disaster relief with hurricanes for Katrina and Sandy and locally. So seen a lot of flooding and don't want that to happen here in Marshfield.
Perfect. My name's Mary Murphy. I live in Brant Rock, where it floods all the time. I'm sure most people know where I live. I have no association with real estate or insurance. I'm just a property owner. Truthfully, I joined this team because it had communications in it. I'm a 30-year Fidelity vet, where I just retired from Fidelity Investments. My husband and I own Repel Pest Solutions. And I think that I could probably help with some of the communications as it relates to spreading the word or creating events. And I've been doing some digging, as you know, and, because I like to understand everything in the strategy, just so we set it all up so we're all on task, if you will. And, I noticed that we have the coastal community, something or other. It seems very similar to this public information, the PIP, but then when I went on FEMA, their website, there is a PIP, like there's many different levels of PIP. Like there's organizations, there's actual people that are within the town that are dedicated to be a PIP person for.
PPI, yeah.
What is it?
PPI.
PPI, sorry, I don't know if the acronym's right. But
Yeah,
anyway.
so I'll elaborate on that a little bit. So I don't know if the Coastal Advisory Committee in the town of Marshfield is still active or it's not. Yeah, I think that was like 2019 was their last formation on that. So what the town is developed here is what we call a public plan for information. It's part of the community rating system.
Yep.
And it basically awards bonus points to our calculations for CRS. If we have this committee and we document the outreach activities that we do and the things that we do, there are certain activities within CRS that provide a multiplier for the amount of points we get per class.
Right.
So the more points we have, the higher the class rating we can get, and that's one of the.
That lowers our insurance.
Correct.
Yes,
And
that's
one of
what
the
I'm-
things that we're doing is, you'll see on our item agenda number 2, is to kind of review the materials that were sent over to us by the ISO officer Eugene Coles, who's doing our 5-year kind of cycle audit or review for classification. So that letter that we've passed out today is one of those things that you'll see the items that he's looking for our October 16th Zoom meeting, because it will be on Zoom. He's asked us for a few things, and we're going to get into that next, and just kind of what he's looking for and some of the things that we got to make sure that are done. There are a few things that, activity-wise, that we got to make sure that they're done. And one is, I think the first topic was, we'll start with the agenda on the, so I gotta get my glasses on here. For the cycle certification, is Eugene will be coming. The first thing we gotta do is make sure, I don't know if we've had our BSEGs audit, because that was one of the things that was gonna hold us up, and I don't know if that's been scheduled, Andrew, or if
They've
that
never
person.
reached out to us, yeah.
Okay, so we have that email from Eugene telling us who it is. So I think that'd be the first email we should send back to them. It's like, we have not had this person reach out to us. We need to have this audit done, because that's gonna be a major sticking point in us trying to get to the next class level. So BSEGs, let me back up, is the Building Code Effective Gradingness. Is that correct for the acronym, Andrew?
What's that?
Is that the correct acronym there? Building Code Effective Grading? Or-
Building Code Effectiveness Grading Scale.
Grading scale, thank you. So that's kind of, and that's, a state-specific thing that, they go through and they audit the department and they give us a grade on that. So that's, do you want to email Eugene and copy me and Greg or Nancy on that, just to say, copy Nancy on it and just say, we have not had anybody reach out to us, we're reviewing this, and
Sure.
just to make sure we get that done, because that's gonna be kind of a sticking point here.
Let me
Yeah, go ahead,
introduce myself.
Yes, please, my apologies, Mike.
Yeah,
might-
I was waiting for the big
Yes.
windup.
Yes,
Michael Waddell, glad to be here for my first meeting. I live in the Holly Hill area. I'm not in the floodplain, but I'm on a hill overlooking the floodplain. I retired about 10 years ago from a well-known New England infrastructure firm, Camp Dresser and McKee. So I'm familiar with FEMA and floodplain issues, although it wasn't my direct responsibility. I have more of an IT focus. I'm also aware of floodplain mapping issues. I think CDM had some of that business in New England, so I know it's a controversial topic in some cases. Also a member of the North and South River Watershed Association, so I have a keen interest in water quality and things that can benefit the watershed, whether it's, pollution discharging or anything that, that I can help make the community more sensitive to water-related issues. So I'm interested in what this committee does, and eager to find out how I can help.
Yeah, and I had actually two other things to add too. So not just related to, I have a background in marketing communications, so that's number one. And I live in Brant Rock. But I'm really kind of surprised we don't see the DPW or the police here, like also representing on this team, because like another reason, and I've been pretty vocal at town meetings, like they shut off the Esplanade on both sides when it floods, and no one gets notified. Like our cars are floating, and like the police see the numbers, they see our number lit up, but nothing happens. So I was hoping that something could happen, and Andrew, I know, I guess I've had his ear with this, and I just mentioned to him that like the fire that just happened with Haddad's, like it could have been like 100 years ago. That fire could have swept. You don't know. Like, where is the notification when something bad happens, like an emergency type situation? So that's another reason why I joined this committee. And then the third is I really want to be able to lift my house. So, I want to understand what the rules are and see what we can do to help folks in Brant Rock who want to lift. Are there grants? Are there loans? What's available? So I'm being completely transparent in what I'm telling you. I'm here for communications, but I'm also here to understand about the grants, and then also hopefully improve the emergency systems and how we're communicated to when something happens. And I think that all aligns with
They do.
this team.
Put my mic back on. Thank you.
Perfect. Sorry.
Yeah, so we'll definitely address that in coming meetings. There are some activities that have to be there, but they're, as you know, with FEMA, everything's very specific and has to be
Yep.
I's crossed and things of that nature. So you'll see, with the notification system in the past, I know we've tried to have somebody from the DPW on our board. I don't know if the attendance has been where it is, or, who's been involved with that. I think we've tried engineers or different people like that. So there are some things that we have to do to kind of revamp this, because we've had some turnover in our committee as well. So we'll have to address those in coming meetings, and we'll do that now that I've got some people that want to participate here, and we can, lighten the load for everybody in this room.
Cool.
We
And then-
definitely can go through that.
And I don't know what the rules are, like, this is the first town committee I've been on, so just so you know, but I was the president of the Brant Rock Village Association for a number of years, but I just ran it like a corporate meeting. So
Right.
I will stop talking and listen and learn.
Yeah, no, so
That's
we'll
all I'm
definitely,
gonna say.
we'll definitely have some, some things, and we can look into, grants and things like that, but we have to have the town participation, and, I think
Of course.
we'll go through that. So definitely go through that. So I wanted to kind of address the letter that Nancy got through our ISO officer, who's Eugene Coles. FEMA's very short-staffed, and we expect changes within this program. When you talk to Joy Dupereau, who's our state floodplain person, even she's, not putting in new communities that want to join because they think there are changes coming down the pike. We don't know what they are yet, and we don't know what the budget cuts are going to be for that. But on the top of this page, you'll just kind of see our CRS NFIP number. It tells you what our class is, which is a class 7. Our CRS point total right now is 1,797, and our community growth rate is 1.08. I forget how they calculate that, but Eugene's asked for a list of documentation here. I'll start with the top of, activity 310. So one of the things they do in CRS is they audit our elevation certificates. They want to make sure that our elevation certificates are done properly and completed in the correct manner. So they'll go through any of our buildings that are in the special flood hazard area, and Andrew stays on top of that, so we never usually have an issue with this. Every year, they come out and they look at the elevation certificates for the year of the building projects that were in the special flood hazard area. And that's something that they'll look at and go through. Andrew, if you have any comment on the elevation certificates or if anything's in order?
Yeah, I mean, we still haven't received any word back yet from them. It was a little bit different this year. Usually we send a big package in to them with all of the different documentation of all the different outreach events and the updates to any updates to things, and we fill out a big form. This year, they just wanted the elevation certificates and very basic information. I'm confident that they were all correct. I was pretty diligent about getting them, doing the memo for review and correctness and send them out to the engineers or land surveyors to have them amend them and send them back to me and have all the pictures updated and do all the things that, they're very specific now about all the different things CRS needs on these elevation certificates. So, but I'm confident that we should have them all correct and that there won't be an issue there. It's just a lot of work, and it's going well. We've got a good system now. I think the builders over the last couple of years of us doing a lot of this stuff have gotten a lot more used to it, have gotten more used to getting all these elevation certificates in, doing the non-conversion agreement now. Working
Explain that
with
to
the
some of
floodplain permit.
the non-conversion agreement for
Sure,
some of
yeah.
just for that, because we're being recorded for the public too.
So one of the things with CRS is if we adopt, you've got your base building code, you've got your base conservation, wetlands protection regulations, and zoning regulations. And then with CRS, we're basically adopting higher regulatory standards that are set by FEMA. But we're also encouraged to adopt our own higher regulatory standards that go above and beyond even FEMA or local building codes. And one of the things that we have adopted in Marshfield is the non-conversion agreement. So when a house is elevated and substantially improved or is new construction in a flood zone, we have them sign and record a non-conversion agreement. It's recorded with the deed, so it travels through ownership, and basically states that the house is elevated and compliant with the floodplain bylaw and with FEMA and the building code and with conservation, and that they cannot modify the space, the enclosed space or below the structure, or the open space below the structure, depending on what type of flood zone or resource area it's in. And if they, without approval from the town. And so they have to sign that and record it with the deed. But just doing that with every single project, attaching that to every elevation certificate that I submit to FEMA for their review, gets us more points in the CRS program. So those are the types of little things that we can do as a town that help us, small things that we can do that really don't affect anything. And it's a kind of a no-brainer. It's just a statement saying, hey, we're not going to change this house so that it becomes in violation, because it's brand new and it's currently in compliance. So that's just an easy way for us to get points. So a lot of that is brainstorming with this committee and just trying to find little nooks and crannies where we can,
Great.
What
Chip
would
away.
constitute a violation?
pardon me?
What would constitute a violation?
Sure, so like, for instance, if they had, I can honestly, I'll point to a local issue, right, the hat ads, okay? And I didn't become aware of it until, the fire. The flood openings on the sides were supposed to be open. It was a concrete foundation with flood openings on the side. At a certain point, a couple of years ago, they enclosed them with slats, which is okay. But then they put foam behind it, and they
Oh, for
screwed the
insulation?
foam. Yeah, and they screwed the foam board insulation in. So that becomes an obstruction, and I I would have been aware of it until there was a fire and I had to do an investigation into the fire to see that all this stuff had been screwed on from the back. So, a lot of that also is just, we have to kind of be vigilant, keeping our eyes around town, making sure people aren't making modifications. And some of these go back all the way to the 90s. I mean, we've had flood zone, we've been in the NFIP since 1978, right? So, or 77. So, basically, any house that's been built in a flood zone since then is supposed to have been compliant with the flood zone regulations. It's supposed to have flood openings. And in the years that have happened, some of those houses that had flood openings, maybe they've put windows in there or blocked them up with other obstructions, That's one of the things that we kind of have to start working on and looking at, as a committee too. I've had issues where I've had to issue notices of violation against people for changing the openings in their foundation to windows.
Okay, great. We're gonna move on to activity 320 is map information services. This is something we do every year where, basically we promote it so that, people need information on a map inquiry, if they're in a flood zone or how close they are to a flood zone or where it falls on something. They can go within the building department, and they're doing a great job with promoting that, and it's something that we promote, and the realtors, I know the realtors use it a ton. They come in and look for things, and I use it a lot. We come in and look at different, things on there and look to see, where properties be, and we've had some map changes in the past, 5-6 years at least. We've had some definite changes to our flood maps. So that's something that people do look at and are surprised to see what it's in, what's not, what's out there. So I think we're all set on that activity. I don't think there's anything, unless somebody has any issues with.
The only other, there have been some letters of map amendment, or letters, and so there have been some individual properties that have gone and gotten
removed.
Their structures removed from the flood zone based on the topographical information that they've provided to FEMA. We've actually had that happen with 2 houses this year. And I know that I think there's a group of houses on C Street that are looking to do that had gotten put into the flood zone in the last change, and they're trying to do a LOMA to get themselves removed. I believe they're working on that.
Okay,
What's
But the map doesn't get changed.
The map doesn't get changed. It's a letter of map
they
amendment,
just-
so it's just
Right.
it's an internal, thing. It's something that
They
gets
document
recorded,
that
it's
particular
documented. We
property.
publish that on our website, and we keep an internal log of all those things.
okay.
What's the outreach project?
So that's our next topic. So the outreach projects are.
Well, I mean, under 320, it says provide the outreach project.
Yep,
So is 330 support 320?
yes, the outreach project for 320, we have the brochures and the things that we attach to show that, that this map service is available, and that's something we usually submit with the.
Yeah, so like one of the things that we do is, on the website, we say, we've got links to all of our flood maps and information on that. But we also, with building permits, we issue a document that gives information on flood insurance and flood mapping, so that everybody gets that document right off the bat.
Everyone in the floodplain or everybody?
Everybody in the floodplain, I'm not sure if everybody does. I think we were thinking about changing that to everybody, but I know everybody in a flood zone gets it, for sure.
Okay. So, activity 330 is our outreach projects. It's listed in our PPI plan, which Greg has a copy of there, and we'll make sure we have the most updated version for our committee members. We're gonna probably review that at our next meeting, and that probably, I'm gonna try and schedule that for 2 weeks out. I'm away next week, but we're gonna have to go through some of those activities and make sure we're doing them. There are a few changes that we're gonna have to make just because of a couple of organizations don't exist anymore to our documentation, but there'll be things in the outreach projects. So some of our outreach projects that are listed in there, you'll see us at elections. We have a table out there for people to stop by at usually at our fall and spring town meetings, we usually have a information booth there to kind of get some people out there. We try and do outreach projects as far as, you'll see our signs that are out in front of DPW, and sometimes Green Harbor or Brant Rock, where we'll say, we put out different messagings
Church in Green Harbor.
in front of the church in Green Harbor, where we have some messaging that's listed in these documentations of things that we put in there. So we'll review all our outreach projects, and we may update those for our new plan that we'll have to get approved for the select board, but those are things that we'll make sure are done prior to this October 16th to make sure we have that there.
So,
Might want to go back to just explain the 5-year cycle to our new members. and
Sure.
This is like an all-day
Yes.
event.
Okay, so the ISO or the CRS committee, what the FEMA will do is every year they make sure that there's certain things that we do, and it's kind of like a smaller audit, if you will, every year. So there are things that are required every year for us to stay in the program. And every April, Andrew scrambles around and spends, a lot of hours and work getting our documentation ready and submitted to them. 5-year cycle is kind of a more full-blown audit where they go through everything that we do and they ask for all the documentation. During that period, they will assess our points and they reclass us or they could decrease or, move us up a class, which would cause us to have less of a discount. So we try and stay within, we're one of the higher point totals in the state, but, there are things that we have to do and that are mandatory, and there are things that we get points for. So some of the stuff that, they'll look for, and then we have to get from, like, one of the newer things that we might be getting points for is stormwater documentation. So we look at, are we doing in our new developments certain requirements that, minimize the amount of storm water flowage and things like that, so,
Which goes to town meeting
again,
this fall.
okay.
Upcoming town meeting, there's a DPW article which addresses the MS4 and any clear cutting of 1 acre or more.
Okay,
So there's a lot of stormwater changes that they are
proposing,
bringing to town meeting.
right. And if you look at, I'll just say as a general commentary, most of the flooding you see, whether it's in Leominster or these other areas, it's usually due to a significant amount of rainfall. Someone getting 10 inches of rain and the water has nowhere to go because there's no drainage requirements, or it's just running on asphalt and causing a lot of the flooding issues. So those are the things that they're looking for in the documentation that we have. And
So this is the October 16th meeting?
the October 16th meeting, this letter that you have here is a Zoom meeting with the ISO officer, Eugene Coles, for our 5-year cycle visit. And the letter that we're going through right now kind of is the activities he's asking for documentation for.
so are
And
we
that's what
coming
we're
up with on the 5-year, or are we like year 4?
No, we're probably in year 6 because of them, they've delayed us. It's not.
So this is year 5?
Yes,
Okay.
and this is our 5-year, and this documentation that we have here is basically the things that he's looking for on that project.
So this is sort of a
Checklist.
heads up on the
Yes,
audit?
absolutely, yeah, they just ask, these are the documents I'm gonna be looking for, can you gather them up? This is what he's basically,
Between now and the 16th?
yeah. No, well, on the 16th, we have to submit them, or we have 30 days after the 16th. If we don't have something, we have to get that to them.
Okay.
So,
So in years past, I know, like, I don't know, I've attended things that, like the senior center with Greg, where they talked about flooding and stuff like that. Was that a part of this project? Like,
More than likely, yes.
yeah? So that would be considered community outreach?
Correct.
And then what, were those all documented in like the action items then put enforced?
Those were hazard mitigation meetings and stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. But those still, weren't they part of our PPI?
They
though?
count.
Yep.
They count? Okay.
There've also been PSAs that Tim has taped at MCTV.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
we've done some of those and put those through Marshfield Community Media, which probably have to be updated. I'm not, just because they're a couple of years old, and put new faces to some of these.
And have you thought of like other mediums, like, I don't know, like Zoom or like online, like seminars or what have you?
Yeah, we do, we have had them in the past.
Oh, we have.
A spring or fall outreach where, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, we had a much higher attendance, and I think it's tapered off as people kind of have attended them, but we do get some new people to go into them.
There was obviously a lot more attention when the maps were changing.
Yeah.
And people, people were in and out and whatnot, and there was a lot more attention now. And look, we haven't had a major storm in like 7 years.
Yeah, we have no,
Wood.
correct.
That's a big part of it too.
Yep.
That's gonna be a reminder to people once we do have,
Yeah.
and so.
So, I'm gonna move right along just for time
Yeah.
constraints, so we keep us on time for the hour here. Our hazard disclosure is our real estate brochure. This was created, and we give this to Amy, and Amy has been great with us. We set up usually an annual meeting with all the realtors, and Amy March, our committee member.
Hi, Amy.
She's our.
How are you?
She's our real estate liaison that's on the board. And then we have also a lending person, that's Eric Ritzy as well. He's not here today, but part of this meeting that we do in this brochure is we hand out the brochures, we talk to the real estate agents, the importance, and the real estate agents in Marshfield are phenomenal. Most of them are on top of this area, they know it well. It's usually trying to get that message out to the realtors that maybe not do a lot of coastal work or know what Marshfield's rules and bylaws are and things like that. So we have an annual meeting where we meet with the Marshfield realtors. We invite them to come in, and we have a very good back and forth with questions and, providing information to the realtors of what the building codes are, what the floodplain requirements are, what to tell the prospective buyers, and that's part of our program. So we're in good shape on that real estate brochure. I don't think there's any issues that we have.
No, and we also mail a stack of them to each real estate office in town.
Correct. We do an annual mailer with these brochures that goes out to all the real estate offices in Marshfield. So that's one of the requirements they're going to be looking for.
Gotcha. And are these like posted on the webpage? Is there a repository for like where all these communications are?
They are, that's a great question, and it's something that we're working with IT on, because IT had changed around their entire website and moved some of our documentation and where everything is.
Okay. Oh, the
Prior
links,
to,
yeah.
prior to that, our former chair that was a non-resident, had everything kind of on his own organizational file, which was great. The issue with that is that none of the town employees had access to it, and it was kind of, so we're trying to create something where the access is in town and it's in one thing, so that might be an area that we can address.
Similarly, just for perhaps another meeting, I'm curious about who maintains our web pages, because when I went to check on who's on the committee, it's not updated, and I just wondered if there's.
It's an issue that we have to address and get updated.
Okay.
So it's definitely something that we'll be looking at.
So on town departments, it's up to the town departments to keep their web pages up to date.
But what,
So Concom
Yep.
has to do it for Conservation Commission. Planning staff does it for the planning board.
what about this board?
I'll take it as an action item.
Okay.
So, and then will the coastal advisory committee, like, could I join that, or is that not?
I don't think it
Not
is.
active.
It's not active. It just seems that there's a lot of content on those pages that would apply to this committee.
Yeah, but
If you look at it, like, they have a mission statement, it seems, I don't know, it seemed pretty detailed.
but I don't, it's just not a formal, the group is not active, so I don't know how you would even.
Yeah, but I mean, somebody should probably then clean it up from the town, I don't know, like, the page.
So,
Could you just,
I don't even know where it would, we can look into it, Mary, but I don't know
Okay.
who's running that, so.
I think that would be our select board to
Select board,
deem
yeah.
it's no longer a committee and then
Okay,
disconnect it.
okay.
So
The library.
did I get this, right?
Yeah.
Nancy was gonna look into the web page?
Yes.
now?
Yeah, I'll talk to IT and I'll see about
Okay.
getting it updated and getting documents on there.
Awesome, thank you.
Flood protection information, that's still in the library, Greg? Do we know our
Yep,
resources?
there's still copies in the library.
Okay.
And there was someplace else we had them too, I thought.
Yeah, we got to provide an updated link, so that may be something, Nancy, you could do, make sure that that link is there. I know when they redid everything for their, well, they had to redo their web pages, right, to make them more accessible for vision and
Yeah.
Yes, and I
And I was
think they're now looking for a new person to further enhance it. It may be ADA, but it's not very user-friendly.
correct. I'll agree with that, yeah. So we'll figure that out. So Activity 370, flood insurance promotion, kind of falls into our outreach meetings that we do in the spring and the fall. Provide a progress report. We've been stuck with this issue, and I've gone through this with Eugene, and I have to ask for our regional ISO person, because we haven't gotten an update on the numbers. We used to annually review our flood insurance data from the National Flood Insurance Program. Our ISO officer used to email us an update of all the policies that the town has that are in the National Flood Insurance Program, what flood zones they are, whether they're private, residential or commercial, what if they're in a V zone, an A zone, what the policy counts are, and we would review them versus prior years to see if there's an increase in flood insurance. One of the things we're trying to do is promote flood insurance as an activity to the more we promote it and can show that there's more flood insurance, they give you points for that. The problem we've had is that the data is very hard to digest, and they have not been able to give us new data, and we've asked for this. So that's an email that Andrew and I are probably going to make to the ISO as well, to find out who it is and who can give us this data. The other issue that we tackle in this committee for Michael and Mary is there's a significant number of people that have private flood policies in the town. There is no tracking mechanism through FEMA to tell us how many private policies are within the town of Marshfield, and we're not allowed to know. So we're trying to figure out how to work with our local state reps to just to even give us a number. If we knew there were 200 or 300 or 400, that would help Marshfield in its data, because we suspect there are a lot of people that have policies, but they're not through the NFIP, and it's hard for us to track. So we're trying to figure out a tracking mechanism to make that happen. I can tell you personally, I know there are a lot, because I'm in that business, and I know Amy can tell you as well, because she sells a lot of houses, and, the realtors are selling a lot of that, and a lot of them are private
A
now.
lot of them are private.
So with the insurance industry, you guys don't have like regional people that you're able to plug into?
As far as it's not the insurance industry, it's kind of FEMA's ISO coordinators that track that data.
Right, but I'm just thinking from like an insurance.
We can't, I
association.
can't plug in and tell you exactly how, no, we don't have access to
You don't
that
have,
data.
and even within your own books, you don't know.
I know in my personal, I could tell
Right.
you exactly how
So
many
I'm
I
just-
have.
So so you know it, and then probably other insurance agencies in Marshfield know it. Is there a way to do it that way, like?
Most of them
grassroots?
won't give you that data. They won't,
Not even a number?
no, not really.
People who are insured out of Medford, even though their
right.
home is here.
You have a lot of
So you
Situate
track
agents,
Insurance companies
you know,
all over the
so
state.
But I thought the point was just to show that they have flood insurance.
The idea is to just figure out how many people have flood
Right.
insurance. So,
So-
but we're trying to do it, the way we're trying to do it is as a private flood policy, there's an affidavit they have to sign that goes to the state, and the insurance companies file that affidavit to
Oh,
the
I see.
insurance department. So the insurance department could tell us how many policies have been, they should be able to look it up by town and say,
Gotcha.
but they're not getting that data. So we're trying to work with the state reps to see if there's a way to throw that into some legislation to say, just give us a number. We're not looking for where it is. I don't want to know where it is. I just need to know, if there are 300 private policies in the Marshfield, that'd be great. Because our numbers have floated around 1,090 in that range is how many people have national flood insurance policies in the town of Marshfield. So it's through there.
Have you talked to like Pat Kearney or anybody?
Yes, we're bouncing that around.
Okay, because it would seem like he's an associate for like all the coastal towns, right? Like Situate's a part of his
Yeah,
district.
no, yeah.
Marshfield, you'd think he'd
They're trying to
have-
figure that,
he'd
trying
have
to
a
figure that out.
Direct interest.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how to get that done. It's, we did have also, trying to do in one of our
Mail out.
surveys we're gonna do, or mailers, we're gonna ask the question that goes out to the town if they, just ask people if they have a flood policy. we didn't care if it's private or NFIP, we'd be able to figure out how many policies if people answered the survey, but that's not always, but at least it would be
That's a good
something.
idea.
No, it's great.
Yeah, an online
So we're-
survey, I think that's perfect.
No, it would be on like one of the mailers that people get in their water bill or whatever, just, or whatever the no, it was
We
the,
tried it with the town clerk, but it didn't.
Oh,
we were
I
gonna
think
do it,
that'd be
we were gonna do
expensive.
that in the census. We were just gonna ask the question right in the census.
Oh, I see.
That way it wouldn't be expensive for that to do that, so
Yeah.
we're gonna try and figure that out.
Got it.
Open space preservation is something that we work with Michael's department and conservation and our mapping,
Do you need a new map?
probably wouldn't
Don't
hurt.
think we've added any
Parcels or anything new to it.
parcels since the previous map.
No, and we've gotten,
I
when we
mean,
figure
have
out
two
open
properties.
space.
We do have 2 properties for town meeting, but that would be counted in this year, right?
Right. So it looks at what this credit activity does, is it looks at the amount of land that is owned by the town or we have some organizations that have signed letters saying they're not developing that land. That counts as acreage that we get to divide and it comes up with a point total of non-developable land that's in the special flood hazard area. So they give you a credit for that to,
Got it.
is kind of one of the activities they have, so. I don't know if we have anything in that. I don't think we need to do that for a cycle, for a new map,
Right.
but,
So he didn't say we needed a new map.
not that I know of.
Okay.
It says an impact
'Cause that
adjustment
could
map
take a
includes.
little bit to get the map.
Yeah, that could take a little while.
Yeah, it could, yeah.
What's OSP credit?
So we use the
Open
map we
space
already have.
preservation. It's
okay.
a lot of acronyms,
Got
so
it,
just, yeah, just go
it's
through
right
them,
up
'cause
above.
they do it a lot.
Yeah.
Andrew, anything on Activity 430, higher regulatory standards, that you know of for that activity? That's just this is part of our flood, that's the non-conversion stuff that we do.
Non-conversion agreement, honestly, following Massachusetts building code is already a
Right.
higher regulatory
Yeah,
standard
yeah,
than FEMA.
Yep.
Other than that, we don't really, it would just, I don't think that we have a whole lot of specific, higher regulatory standards, other than, we have some language in the floodplain bylaw that you can't, encroach closer to a dune, you can't do any construction in a velocity zone, beyond the mean high water line, but like, you wouldn't even get a permit through conservation to do that anyway, so, you know what I mean? So those are higher regulatory standards, honestly.
Yep.
A lot of them are created through the Wetlands Protection Act as well, and through our Conservation Commission, enacting conditions to protect the floodplain.
Yep.
What about the paperwork you were just describing, that you were doing that extra due diligence? Wouldn't
The
that be
non-conversion.
included as a part of the higher regulate?
Well, okay, so yes, the requirement, but, yeah, so these are, but they're not higher regulatory standards than, I guess they're higher regulatory standards than normal. So, building code requires a floodplain inspection. So, if you're building a house in a flood zone, in order to get the permit, you have to submit a elevation certificate based on the plans that says, based on these plans, the house is going to be elevated this high and is going to comply. Then, once they build that first floor, and they're supposed to give me another elevation certificate, or really, by code, they're supposed to give me documentation signed by a registered design professional that says that elevation meets the code requirements. They can give that to you in any kind of form, a letter, a site plan, or whatever. FEMA wants us, for CRS purposes, to make that document another elevation certificate, a under construction elevation certificate. So I'm not required by building code to ask for that specific document, but in order to satisfy CRS and keep us into that, that's the only document I can accept for that. So that's kind of a higher regulatory standard, in that specific building code
Yeah.
aspect than other towns would have.
Should you
So
call
like
that out?
we can certainly do that, but that's also That's inherent in the CRS program because
Somebody ran it.
that's, to be in the CRS program, you should be doing that.
Right, and there's certain steps in that higher regulatory standard that we
That are
probably,
inherent.
we wouldn't want to enforce on our residents, that are too restrictive. And so some of the activities that we look at, we find them too detrimental as a cost, prohibitive to both new business development and the actual cost of an, someone who has damage to their home. We don't want to create too much of a higher regulatory standard and force somebody. We'd rather have the option.
Yeah.
But we don't want to force somebody to, make a change that they, for something to happen there. Flood data maintenance is activity 440. I don't think there's any, it says provide copies of examples of your current GIS program that shows the regulatory floodplain, corporate limits, streets, parcels. I don't know if that's an issue, Greg. I mean, with the GIS is, I don't
That's
know
pretty
enough about
standard.
that. It's pretty standard. We'll find out.
Who's the GIS person responsible? Is that Greg?
We usually, it's Greg's department, it's not Greg, it's usually, we hire somebody to kind of do the GIS or add an intern or helps us with the
Actually,
mapping.
Karen does.
Karen does it right now, yeah.
So on our online mapping, that probably covers this.
Yes. Okay,
So I think we're good.
okay,
And the assessors update the map every year for assessor parcels, so
okay.
it should be up to date.
And I will say that, like, we're constantly, as, like, a group of people that work with the GIS, so like, I know my staff, Nancy, the assessors, Jenna and Kate, the conservation, we'll find parcels that will have the wrong, like, zoning listing or the wrong information on it, and we'll send that information to Karen and the assessors, and we'll get that and fix it.
Update.
So we're constantly, like, if we see something wrong, we all communicate and get it fixed on,
So it's basically the assessor's database and GIS that, sort of the top of the pyramid of,
Yeah, I would say so for
With
the most.
coordination among-
The coordination on the information for the GIS, a lot of it is the assessor's data.
Assessors, and they have an outside consultant that does the online mapping part of it.
that was the type of business that my colleagues
Sure.
at CDM did, so.
Got it. Repetitive loss data, this just tells you kind of how many repetitive losses are in the town of Marshfield. This is for our new committee members, there are only certain people in this committee that are allowed to see that data. As residents, Mary, Michael, myself, and Amy are not allowed to have that data. They get fined heavily if Greg or Nancy were to, I don't know if Andrew has access, being the floodplain.
Individuals with baseball hats, sunglasses, and masks will come, take us, and we will end up in El Salvador.
It's crazy.
Men in
It is-
black
it is
will
very
swoop
highly
down
$5,000.
Marked helicopter.
Yes, it's a fine.
Yeah, why is that?
$5,000 if you're in a recent.
I think they just don't want the general public knowing which properties are considered
It's
severe
definitely,
repetitive
see
losses
it, I'll
because
have
it
to tell you.
affects their
Right.
values
And
of,
right.
Crazy, the-
things in town, so.
We have to, yeah.
They keep that very private, so it,
Who knows?
I mean, you can.
the.
Just town employees?
Just basically certain people within the town.
I
that
think only
have
Greg and
access.
I have access to
Yeah,
it.
there's only certain people that, and most people don't.
So Tim, the map is dated. That map has not been updated in 5 years, easy.
So the town of Marshall's per
Lost map.
2019, so we haven't done anything, I imagine this has gone down.
We don't, that comes from either the state or,
All right, so this is another issue we have with ISO not responding to us and getting us this, not only the flood insurance data that tells us how many policies there are, but how many of our severe repetitive losses and gone through that. So,
and for the newer members, part of the problem is FEMA has been
yeah,
up in the air
yeah,
all year now.
Sure.
They're expecting an axe to fall. There's
Again.
not,
The department's
staffing
been cut in
problems,
half.
everything else there.
right. So a lot of this is, and I don't know the 501 repetitive loss requirement sheets. I mean, that's that. Do you know anything about that?
So the cause of loss areas, actually is something that was covered in the hazard mitigation plan.
Yep.
We did put areas in town that we knew that there were flooding,
Right.
for street flooding and stuff like that. I
Yep.
guess that's what they're looking for, I'm not sure.
Okay. And that, do we know, how old is our hazard mitigation plan now? Was it recently redone by Woods Hole, right?
Yeah,
Last
I think it was a year and a half ago, so
Year and
we
a half?
still got like 3 years on it.
Okay. All right, so we owe kind of an email to Eugene Coles on trying to find out the information on our,
So he's the ISO guy.
he's our one who's doing the audit. He will direct us to where we might be able to get some of this data.
Okay.
When I circled back to the beginning of kind of going over this form, we were talking about the building code effective gradingness, we've been getting the person in here to do our building department. We've reached out and we got no response. So that's something we have to get, ask Eugene to get that.
And Eugene was our person, but
Yes.
was not supposed, he was supposed to have been replaced, and something happened to
Person
that
never happened to
person,
that.
so Eugene came back just to cover us.
Right.
So again, there's a lot of things going above us that we have no control over.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a frustrating process, but we're gonna have to, so on the final page here, you'll see our floodplain management planning. This is asking us if your community has a current update floodplain management plan or hazard mitigation plan. So they want us to submit the newer copy of that, and go through there. One of the things that we probably do need to do on there, is we have to, was you guys do it every third Tuesday or every second Tuesday of the staff head meetings?
Oh,
Sure.
once
Once a month.
a month.
Once a month?
Department head meetings, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever the next one is, we need to.
Joe used to come in and, Rossi, and he would meet with the department heads, and he'd have the hazard mitigation plan, and he'd ask this, DPW, police, everybody would answer what they've been doing.
So one of the things we do when we update the hazard mitigation plan, in the back of the hazard mitigation plan, there's a list of the action items that the town's trying to address, and some of them are long-term goals, and because of either budget reasons or the scope of the project. Some are short-term goals that are easily addressed and going through. So that's an item that needs to be, reevaluated and make sure that, things need to be added or we have to kind of get that updated and give to the select board. So that'd be good to know if we can find out, do we know when the next meeting is?
Next week.
Timeframe, which I
Next
can't,
week.
which I can't make that because I'm away, but what would be the following date,
I
November?
think it would be after.
No, it's October?
Yeah.
So why don't we look at an October staff date to,
Is that
Or
going to put
so-
us in jeopardy with Eugene, or?
Because it would be after Eugene's visit.
I mean, if you want to look, if one of you guys are going to be there and just go, make sure you review the back of the hazard mitigation plan.
That's
just-
fine, we can do that. We've done that before, right?
Yeah, I would just, ask for any updates on
Would it
any
be next week?
projects.
What's that?
Do it next week?
At the next department head
Next
meeting?
department head meeting.
Yeah.
Just put it, yeah, just so we have notes on like what projects have been tackled and which ones have been done. I know some DPW has addressed some of the,
Man, people are gonna be upset at us that a department head meeting is gonna last more than 10 minutes.
true. But it would be good to know, I know there are certain items that have been addressed by, I know Sean has done some things with some of the drainage in certain
Yeah.
areas and they fixed some things.
And we-
They're always constantly doing something.
We have we should get an update on the Plymouth Ave pump station.
Correct.
How that's going.
Right.
Some other infrastructure stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so if you guys could, attend that and make some notes.
Hey, we can send that out to department heads before the meeting, just so that they'll be prepared to,
That'd be a great idea to
That's a
do
great
that.
idea.
Yeah.
they're not,
Great idea.
You know?
they're not gonna get it there and then have to think
Yeah,
right on
they,
the spot.
that way they can write their notes in there and just submit them to you, so you
Yep.
guys can have just a conversation over it,
Yeah.
if there's anything else that upcoming projects we'd wanna know about too, And that's kind of the input, I think, on the hazard mitigation plan, it's just making sure that things are on there and where they fall, and, there's always a lot of work to do, and, between wells and walls and drainage and other things that are on that plan, so.
And the more they have, the better it is, kind of, for us. Is that how it works?
Yes and no. I don't think FEMA wants to see a bunch of projects on there and the town of Marshfield not completing any of them, because that would be an issue too. So, but if there's, things that we're actively addressing and going, then it looks good and favorable for us. So it's kind of a, but if we're not doing any of the items, then it doesn't look good for you. So I guess we want to.
Well, the extra drain in Brant Rock is definitely helping.
I'm sure, yeah.
that's-
I have my street where they fixed the drains after 20
Oh,
years,
yeah,
and it's
yes.
finally stopped bubbling up after every rainstorm. So it's nice to have some drains that actually work, so that does help.
And they just finished Stevens Road area. They redid all the drainage and
Right.
repaved it, so.
Yeah, so there are always, there are always gonna be things like that, if you get down to like in the Surf Ave area where they have the drainage things that Michael was working with getting permitting so they could go in there and just get rid of brush, or at Bass River where they're trying to clean out soot and debris so that the river, these drainage canals and things like that
Fix,
clean up.
all that drainage on Country Way too. That's all in a flood zone.
Right.
And
It's always
It's
ever
also,
going
because the other thing is
maintenance.
it's, ultimately, when we're talking about flooding too, it's not just flooding from coastal flooding, right? We've got a bunch of streams and rivers and we get these extreme storms, and we've got some pretty extreme slopes in spots in town, so you can have flooding from all sorts of different sources, but obviously our biggest contributor to the issue is the ocean out there.
So, and it is just after noon. I usually try to keep these meetings to an hour. What I'm proposing is that we close the meeting and set up our next meeting would be September 24th. In between those two dates, I'm gonna work on this PPI document and try and get that ready for review. Hopefully, we have some answers from Eugene Coles on our ISO person that can give us some data in regards to.
You should update this stuff too.
Yes, those kind of things need to be updated with Eugene, who our select board is, and the changes that have happened there, so he needs to know who that's going to. So we got a lot of that work to do, and I'll try and work with Mary and Michael a little bit here as our new committee members to help with tasking some of this, because it's a lot of work to get some of this done and
So
go through there on there. Yes,
Jenna came in,
yes.
and the change that has to happen is that has to be updated,
Yes,
the list here.
yep,
And then they'll put the date on, but see, the problem is the date is May 6, 2024.
that was,
Is that gonna be a problem with Eugene? Because
I don't think so, because we got an extension
2020,
on it.
but not on 2025?
No, because the 2025 is still going, you know what I mean? So we can just update that as the end of the year. So long as we have this as, current year, I mean, we have the prior year done, so we just make those changes.
So I don't know, Andrew or Nancy, which one?
Yep, yep. So I got an email, well, Doris, I thought was still on this committee, when I asked. I don't know
Oh.
if that's the case or not, we'll find that out.
Okay.
And certainly Eric needs to be listed on this. We did a lot of these changes, so, this
But
one,
not on the copy I guess they have.
this copy is old.
This is from the select board, that's what they voted on.
Okay. Well, that's not the case, I don't think, but
Not the-
we'll have to go through that and look. I have a different version of that, because we did update this and have the updated on that. So I thought that was presented by you and Andrew at that meeting, and that was
Well,
done.
that's why I figured we better,
All right, we'll get to the bottom of that after our meeting and figure out what.
Might be a rewatch of the meeting too.
Yeah, I think so, because we got some things in there that,
Yeah.
date-wise, that need, I'm already looking at this, and I can tell you there's some dates in there that need to be updated. It says 2023, and there's stuff in there that, doesn't exist, so we'll make sure this gets updated. We'll get you a copy of this. This is something that we're working on, to have the outreach projects.
and Andrew has the one I gave you,
Yeah, I'll give that back.
Yep,
which was, as far as I knew, Andrew, that's the oldest one, that's the newest one I have.
Okay.
yeah. I remember Andrew and I sitting in his office doing this at the last minute, getting all this updated and sent over to Eugene for the prior years, so.
And is that's on the Marshfield website?
Yeah.
Oh,
The-
yeah,
Well,
we
the
can go and look at
previous
it.
years.
The previous years,
Previous,
yeah.
not this year.
Yeah, we gotta update, make sure it gets
Gotcha.
updated for that, so that's one of the things we're working on that.
So does this committee meet do you meet every other week? Like,
No.
what is the cadence?
The meetings are basically as needed.
Okay.
So there'll be times when we don't meet for months. And there'll be other times where, if we have like now, where we have a high workload, or.
With the 5-year cycle, it's. could
more
be
intense.
Yeah, this is more intense, so we're gonna have probably week meetings when we can meet, or when I can meet. There's only so much time I have still working that I can give where, we're gonna meet during the day and get everybody in here, but, yeah.
We generally make quarterly at the,
Quarterly is usually what we do. So there'll be times when it's slower in the summer, things like that.
Yeah, quarterly and then as needed.
yeah.
But generally, you're gonna see a lot more meetings right now, just because there's a lot more work to do.
Okay, and is it always in the middle of the day, like 11 o'clock?
I usually prefer that, but if
Okay.
if the committee member, I know the staff's here, so that's kind of, we're trying to make sure they're here too,
Right?
rather than an evening, but if it doesn't work for everybody, let us know.
Well, also now if we're gonna be having meetings in the chambers, then it's not available every night, so.
It's better during the day
Okay.
for most of us. I can be flexible with that, just because I can
Yeah,
make my
I just
own hours.
prefer early in the morning, but whatever, doesn't matter.
I just don't know if you guys, it's up to you guys on that.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, right, seriously, we're here. If you guys want to do 8, I'm fine with 8, 'cause it's easier for me to do the meeting in the morning and then go to work,
That's
than
fine.
come in the
I don't
middle
care
of the
about an
day,
earlier
you know what I
meeting.
mean?
That, only because I'm working too, I mean.
Yeah, no, I get it, we're all working, so, we're going through there, so. With that said, just,
So the
Does-
next meeting is the 24th at 11, or?
do you want to do 8 AM on the 24th, or 11 AM on the 24th?
8:30?
8:30 was
Give a
fine.
little,
Yep,
Okay.
get in and get
so we're gonna do
balanced.
9:24 at
Coffee.
8:30?
8:30.
On the dot.
Does anybody volunteer to write up some minutes of our meeting?
I took notes, so.
Oh.
You want to write those up, so we can have those for our next meeting,
Yeah.
just to review the minutes and get them
I'm gonna
approved?
go over to General, let her know get the room reserved.
Appreciate that.
Oh, great.
With that, I make a motion to close the meeting. It is
Second.
12:08. Any
He seconded.
seconded, any other comments? No,
Second.
we're good?
Yeah.
Great.
All in favor?
All right, the meeting is officially closed.